Hi, everybody. We're just going to give folks about a minute or two so we can get the meeting started. Just allow folks to continue to come in. So please bear with us. Okay, and I think we're achieving critical mass here to get this meeting started. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for today's MIP work plan meeting, webinar, workshop. Thanks, everybody, for joining. And if we can move to the next slide, please. Okay, next slide. I'll just start with a few instructions on how to use the Zoom webinar. We do have interpretation available tonight, as always. If you would like to hear this meeting in Spanish, please go to the bottom of your screen and look for the interpretation icon. Click there and select your language of preference. And I suggest you select the option that says mute original audio. Otherwise, you might be hearing both languages at the same time. And I will repeat the same information in Spanish. Para quien necesite escuchar esta reunión en español, tenemos interpretación y traducción al español. Esta opción la pueden encontrar en la parte de abajo de su pantalla, en el icono de interpretación o interpretation, si está en inglés. Al presionar ahí, puede seleccionar su lenguaje de preferencia, inglés o español, y puede seleccionar la opción de silenciar el audio original para que no vaya a escuchar la reunión en o los dos lenguajes al mismo tiempo. Okay, next slide. Okay, and also we have a closed captioning available. If you need that, that's also located at the bottom of your screen. And we'll also have a Q&A feature available for this meeting. So feel free to use that feature as we move through the meeting. Those questions will be answered towards the tail end of the meeting. And we'll, of course, open up for public comment. And just to keep us in order, please use the raise hand feature so we can call your name and open up the microphone for you and hear your question or comment. Next slide, please. And with that, I would like to pass it over to my colleague, Tanya Marshall.
Happy day. Hi, everybody. It's a great Tuesday. I'm so glad to see you guys here. SSMP team is so excited that we are able to have this meeting of the 2025 work plan MIP really starting and getting that collaboration. We had such great collaboration from a lot of you in 2024, and we want to keep that going. So we want to give that presentation as to exactly what we're looking for in 2025 and what we've done and where we're going. But before I do that, I just want to make sure we understand who some of the people are working on this, as I know there's a lot of people now in the SSMP program, and you may not know the lead. So the first one is Tanya Marshall. That's me. I'm the California Department of Fish and Wildlife Salt and Sea Program Manager, and the management lead on the MIP and the work plan. And then there's Susie Neal. She is also from CDFW, and she is the actual lead on this. There's also Katie Burnworth, who is newer to the Department of Water Resources, and she is the lead for them. And then there's Miguel, as we just heard from, and he is the lead for California Natural Resource Agency. We also have a consultant on this, working on this, Ramonis Swenson, Dr. Ramona, and she will be actually facilitating this meeting. So I'm going to turn it over to Ramona. I should say Dr. Ramona, to lead the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya, for that introduction. We have here our meeting agenda, and thank you so much for calling in, dialing in, and checking out what we're doing here. The purpose of our workshop today is to talk about the monitoring implementation plan, annual work plan process of how we're going to be collecting information. I'll start first with an overview of the monitoring implementation plan, or MIP as we nickname it. Review what we've done on compiling activities in 2024, and then request input from the community of our monitoring partners and researchers to help us build out the annual work plan for 2025. We'll have time at the end for any questions and comments you have, and then talk a little bit about next steps and how you can be involved. Next slide. So as you can imagine, monitoring the Salton Sea ecosystem and surrounding areas is really important for informed decision-making. The monitoring implementation plan was designed as a regional scale monitoring plan for the Salton Sea ecosystem. This describes monitoring activities and methods to measure the conditions of important resources such as the water, air quality, land cover and habitat, biological resources, and socioeconomic indicators. The intent was to provide a framework for future project scale monitoring plans and provide status and trends information as context to interpret the SSMP's activities. The MIP was completed in November 2022 and translated into Spanish, and both versions are available publicly through the SSMP website. Next slide. So as part of the MIP, it was envisioned that each year an annual work plan would be developed to inventory the array of monitoring and research projects in the region that would address priorities and information gaps identified in the 2022 MIP. The goals of the work plan are to share information about ongoing projects, foster collaboration among monitoring and science partners. This would allow leveraging of complementary studies. For example, if you're monitoring birds, maybe you might want to know about other monitoring of habitats or water quality in the area. And the MIP work plan is intended to be a resource for researchers and managers. The work plan is a voluntary sharing of information of projects, but it's not intended as a database. Merely it's to be an inventory of all the activities in the region so that we can learn more and have better management. Next slide. So we accomplished the first annual work plan in February 2024. We reached out to 30 different partner organizations and got responses from about 21 of those, and inventoried a wide array of activities that were planned in 2024. I'll describe some examples, but 18 of them were related to status and trends monitoring, looking at what are the ambient conditions and changes over time. 18 of those were focus studies, and these are more in-depth studies, maybe of a shorter time frame or a more narrow question, to try to get at some unanswered questions. And then finally, we also compiled project-specific effectiveness monitoring. This is about measuring and looking at implemented projects to see, are they working as they were designed and intended? So the annual work plan summarized, provide a brief summary of what is being measured, when, where, and by whom. Next slide. So let me tell you a little bit about some examples here. First, in status and trends monitoring, one example that's been going on for quite a while are shoreline waterbird surveys. This included partners from California Department of Fish and Wildlife, or CDFW, Audubon, Oasis Bird Observatory, Point Blue Conservation Science, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. These surveys encompass the entire shoreline of the Salton Sea and were conducted monthly and seasonally, depending on the method and focus. In addition, the North Shore has been monitored weekly by Oasis Bird Observatory. And these surveys are an example of kind of the leveraged collaboration that can happen among research partners. Another example of status and trends monitoring is air quality, and there's many partners involved with this as well. The South Coast Air Quality Management District, Imperial County Air Pollution Control District, Imperial Irrigation District, the Torres Martinez Cahuilla Tribe, and the 29 Palms and Cabazon bands of Mission Indians. Most of these monitors are measuring particulate matter, PM10, and PM2, and at some sites I might be measuring ozone and hydrogen sulfide, as well as other meteorological measurements such as wind speed and direction. The MIP includes a list of where these stations are, and again, it's a resource to learn more about what is being measured about the air quality trends in the basin. Next slide. We also have a variety of focused studies that are monitoring and measuring critical resources around the Salton Sea. One example is studying the cycling and bioaccumulation of selenium, which is a toxic metalloid, how it elevates in the food webs of wetlands and may reach Yuma Ridgeways rails, which is pictured here. This project is a partnership of the U.S. Geological Survey, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and University of Idaho. Another focus study are projects being done by the University of California at Riverside, a variety of studies looking at public health impacts from Salton Sea playa dust. In addition, surface water and groundwater budgets are being measured by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation and U.S. Geological Service. The focus studies sometimes have just a shorter period of time, but are more in depth. So they don't have the long period that maybe status and trends studies might. Next slide. Finally, the annual work plan also wants to track project effectiveness monitoring. For example, the dust suppression projects being implemented by DWR. These projects are located along the shoreline at Clubhouse, Tule Wash, and West Bombay Beach projects. And they're doing year-round measurements every 1 to 10 minutes at these meteorological stations, like one here shown, measuring particulate matter, wind, and other meteorological metrics to look at how effective these projects are with the hay bales and vegetation at suppressing dust that's arising from the playa. Next slide. So we were quite impressed and grateful for all the projects that were contributed by our research and monitoring partners in the basin. We'd love if they have information on what you've learned or a summary from what you've worked looking back on 2024. And now looking ahead to 2025, we would like to get information about your plans for monitoring and study in and around the Salton Sea ecosystem and anywhere in the region that it can include, like the Coachella Valley and Imperial Valley. This can include both ongoing monitoring as well as new projects that may be underway. And if you're in doubt, please submit it anyway. We'd really like to understand, kind of paint a bigger picture of what is going on in the Salton Sea region. Next slide. So last year, the way we did this is we reached out via email and then asked people to respond to us. But this year, we're providing another means of collecting information. You can certainly email us, and we have a web form that we can provide, or you can submit it in a survey form. But there's also an easy to submit via a web form that's available at this web address here. And if you go there, we'll be able to fill out a separate form for each project that you're working on. It probably takes only about 10 minutes. It's a very simple form. And they'll also include an option if you wish to be added to future email correspondence regarding the MIP annual work plans. So again, we love to hear about anything that people are doing, and we've had people from the agencies, local government, county agencies, NGOs, citizen groups, all contributing to increasing our knowledge about the Salton Sea. Next slide. So our next steps is we'd like to get your input. Ideally, we'd like to receive it by December 20th. That allows us to compile all the information and put it together into a completed work plan that we anticipate releasing, including a Spanish translation version in February 2025. So if you have any questions, Susie Neal is available to, she is the point of contact for the state on this project. And I'd like to turn it over to Susie. And I also want to thank everyone who contributed in 2024 and to welcome everyone to contribute for the 2025 work plan. Thank you for your attention.
Hi, I'm Susie Neal. I'm with CDFW, and as Ramona said, I'm the point of contact for this. We want to thank our partners for providing feedback and information on current and future research projects in and around the Salton Sea ecosystem. We've been working on a general analysis of what we have accomplished and what we want to accomplish. We use the information provided by our partners to assist in prioritizing what goes into the work plan for this next year. So thank you for your participation and your willingness to share your research with us.
Thank you, Susie. So we'd like to open this time now for asking any questions or comments you might have about the MIP work plan. And, if you, whether about the web form or about the information we've, the process of us making this inventory. So with that, you can click the raise hand button if you want. You may also submit a question using the Q&A chat line. And each speaker will have a time limit of 3 minutes, just to make sure that everyone has a chance to ask questions or make contributions.
It appears we have no hands raised, Ramona. And I do not see any questions within the Q&A. So if no one has those, we'll give everybody a few minutes to type if they need to for the Q&A. And then we will move on if there are no questions.
While we're waiting here, maybe we can bring the slides back to the page that has the web link for submitting information on projects you may have.
There is a question. I do not know that it's related exactly to the MIP work plan. It says, what are the anticipated benefits of the Tule Wash Vegetation Enhancement Project? That's not a specific question for the MIP itself, but we could answer that, Jane, if you would submit that to the Salton Sea email page or website, excuse me. Sonia, can you make a copy of the forms and put it into chat, please? The link, the link.
While she's doing that, we're already getting some projects being contributed. So I want to thank those who've already added their projects to the 2025 list, updating us on which projects are ongoing. And again, if you're not sure, is this something that merits, please send it in anyway, because I think just more information being shared can just improve our ability to understand how the system is evolving and what our priorities are for management actions we can take.
Thank you, Miguel. The link is now within the chat for anyone that did not get that in an email form. Well, this might be a short meeting. If no one has any questions, we really do appreciate everyone that's working on this and putting this all together. This is exciting that we're knowing what's occurring and going on around the Salton Sea. So I hope there's no questions because we were very thorough and
maybe they're already filling out the forms.
yes, there we go. We'll give it one more minute and then we'll get back to the presentation. So
I do encourage folks, if you're not familiar with the MIP or the MIP work plan, to take a look, download it from the web. And it's really interesting to see kind of the array of work that's being done by our research partners and the agencies that are in the basin. I think it'll give you a sense of the whole monitoring and science enterprise that's underway.
okay.
Mhm. Yes, as we see the website page here, there's many opportunities for engagement and learning about updates. So feel free to go check out the website at www.saltonsea.ca.gov. And of course, any comments or input that you have that occurs to you after the meeting, please send that to the SSMP team at the address shown here, cnr-saltonsea@resources.ca.gov.
Thank you, Ramona. It has been requested that we can show you the webs. Since we have some time, we can actually show you the web form. And Sonia, if you could do that for us, that would be appreciated.
So Sonia has here, we have the form and it starts out by looking at asking first, giving you a little background of what the purpose of the MIP annual work plan is, the inventory studies, and points for contact. And then an easy form there where you can indicate, are you updating an existing project? Are you continuing a new one? Are you adding a new project? And from there, it'll take you to different portions of the form to, if you're updating a previously submitted project, then you can select from titles of projects that were already submitted. And as you can see, we've received a lot of input in this first year. You can keep scrolling. But for each project, say if you have a new project, you can enter a little description, a study title, and then describe a little bit about the project. It doesn't need to be really long. We're just kind of looking for an abstract. And then providing contact information so that the SSMP can follow up if they have any questions. What will go into the work plan is the information about the partner agency or entity, the implementing partner, but we won't be including personal information in case people are concerned about that. And then we ask, what type of project is it? Is it a long-term monitoring or short-term? Perhaps it's a short-term field experiment or a lab experiment or project performance monitoring. And then what is its status? Is it planned, underway, or already completed? So again, we're just collecting information sort of about the what, when, where of these projects. We can scroll further down. And then we ask, what's the primary monitoring element so that we can kind of group like to like. And if someone's looking at this inventory and wants to know, what hydrology studies are underway or who's monitoring birds, this allows us to group it together in the work plan. If none of these fit, there's always a button for other, and you can fill in the specifics of what your project may be about. We also include some general information about what region your project may be in. Maybe it's in the center of the open water, or it could be on the Eastern Shore or in Coachella Valley. Again, just helping us get an idea of the region. If you have more specific information, we'd love to hear that there. That often helps scientists who may be looking for monitoring in a similar habitat, for example, on the playa, or maybe you're looking at conditions further up, say, Whitewater River. You ask for a little bit of, tell us about your sampling methods, your data collection methods, and the time of year or season that you're doing this. A little summary, and then any other clarifying details or information or considerations that you're facing. Sometimes we find with given conditions with the sea, sometimes it's hard for access for aquatic surveys, so that's occasionally noted. And then if you have any completed reports that you would like to be shared, you can upload those with that click there, or you can email it as an attachment to the Salton Sea MIP plan. And there's a spot there for uploading that. Again, we're not asking you to provide data. We understand that is the purview of each partner, but we would love to know a little bit about some of the outcomes you have. And again, just basic name, email address, and organization affiliation, just to allow follow-up. And again, this would be kept in the internal inventory, but would not be printed in the MIP work plan. And that's it. It's pretty simple.
And there is a question. If someone is submitting their work via the form and it's included in the work plan, is this a way of bypassing a QAP, I think is how you say it, and data collected being placed in CETA? No, it would still need to go through the proper channels for the data collection. This is not a collecting of the data as much as it is of knowing what's around the Salton Sea and the summarized reports. That's why it is not a database. It is an actual just collection of information. If anybody else would like to, Barbara or Susie.
Great answer. And just for those who aren't familiar, a QAP is a Quality Assurance Project Plan, I believe. So for most projects that are collecting scientific information, it's a way of ensuring that proper protocols were followed for the collection of the information relative to, whether it's hydrologic data or biological, that the proper methods were followed. And CDEN is a statewide database that compiles actual data. And as Tanya mentions, that this information would not be posted to that.
Are there any questions on the form itself? Or other questions? Okay. We did, Miguel did put in the chat that, we would like this information submitted by December 20th so that it can be included in the 2025 work plan. Remember that we understand this is all voluntary, but we've got such a great response for the 2024. Did I say 2025? Excuse me, work plan, 2025 work plan, not the 2024. We got such a good response for the 2024 work plan that we're hoping we have the same response or a similar response, because that's how we're going to gather this information each year and understand what is actually going on. So even if you submitted it last year and you think, well, I don't need to submit this year, please do it. If it is an ongoing project, we still need to know that information. And that is very important to ensure that we have the science that's going on at the sea, so we can determine what else needs to go on. And with that, oh, let me see if there's another. Says, the question is, I'm doing a grad synthesis paper on some of the plant species near the sea. Would that be acceptable, or are you looking for information from physical studies in the region? We are particularly looking for information on the physical studies, but we will take all information. Just submit it, and we will determine where it is. So if there's any question, just submit that, because we understand that sometimes some information is done off of other research that may not be specific for the actual location of the sea, but may be using the research from the sea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and since we know that the ecosystem has many elements there, just painting a better picture of what are the habitats that are in the region could be a useful context as new questions and issues might emerge, or there may be an interconnection that another researcher might be curious about that can help them. So thank you so much for offering to share that information.
And also that it just reminds me that you can also spread the word of this to others. Of anyone that you know that may be doing studies or you've heard of something, just let them know that we're interested in that information. Bird surveys that are being done in Calexico may have an impact on something that is specifically by the sea. So we just want to know what is going on within the area, the Salton Sea ecosystem. So submitting stuff, if you have a question, if they have a question, just let them submit and say, we will determine whether it's something that needs to be added to the plan. Okay. Great. Well, with no other questions or comments, I think we are complete.
Thank you, everyone, for your attention, and Tanya for sponsoring this with CDFW and on behalf of the SSMP program. We really look forward to your submittals and putting out another wonderful inventory of the work around the sea. And
just remember, we can't do it without you. We need that input. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Take care.